Hello, my name is Stephanie Delgado. I will be presenting my e-portfolio for the Educational Technology and Digital Literacy class under Dr. Shelley Hanahan. And from here, I will just be sharing my screen so that we can take a look. So what I have first is my pre-professional profile, just telling a little bit about myself. I am a mother of a daughter of 7 and born in Fort Smith. Me and my family love to paint, love going to concerts. UFIS has a great program, just to say, and kayaking. So we like to play, go listen to music, and paint. We just love it all. But coming back, just like to tie it back into my post professional profile. Here is where we get into more of the details of my teaching approach. So, here, what I'd like to stress is that in the classroom, honesty and integrity, just going from there, it's a facilitation of student approach and in my philosophy. So, from here, we're able to look a little bit more into that philosophy. I aim for a hybrid of subject centered philosophy along with child centered philosophy. Here I have three, just taking key aspects from all three, making that combination to where it's student led. So, first, perennialism. I like to go in and take the Socratic questions, which is an open dialogue that will cause a debate. So, we can use questions to think about how we would approach the lesson. From here, I'd go into romanticism, a little bit more child centered philosophy. From there, I'd like to look at myself as the educator, the source of information, leading questions to provoke that interest. Again, from here, Socratic questions, using that as a guide. And then from here, progressive philosophy, which will be a redirecting, uh, a development of problem solving abilities, just to encourage imagination and resourcefulness that ties into the self guided direction that romanticism has. And it leads to the students how to think versus what to think. So, with that, I'd like to go into that hybrid of philosophies just so students will be able to think on their own, being resourceful, and have deep conversations over a subject, have them asking questions. I'd also like to include my PLN, Personal Learning Network. I included a link here, and it has a more friendly version that is available for students for resources. They'll be directed to that website. I have a lot more on there for them, parents as well, contact information. That's all in my PLN. So next, I'd like to go into assessments. And from here, assessments have clickable links. They're all in blue, just so you can have a look there. And from the top, I have the standard here for the in task for the Arkansas Teaching Standard. And this is for the multiple methods of assessments for growth, progress, and decision making. So, starting off here, the pre assessment, I have Desmos as my pre assessment, including a photo of an activity that can be used. So, in this example, I have a man going up a slide, across, and then down. And you can see this graph here. So the gray that you'll be able to see there is an guess from that relationship. It has the height above the ground versus time. And so with the video, once it's playing, students will make that estimate as to what is going on in the video and how he is moving. And then once you move on to the next slide, it'll show you the actual representation of the graph and how the movement is in at each second. So what I really liked about this pre-assessment, so what I like about this pre-assessment is that it tests individually each student as to what they may know previous knowledge. It kind of gauges the competence of the student as how they will continue in the subject, also as just a general starting point. But what I really liked about this as a pre assessment is that from here, we can have an open discussion. Once we have this graph made, we can come together as a class and compare our graphs. And that's where we have that meaning and direction. We'll pull the students into those conversations using those Socratic questions. So these types of Socratic questions will be pulled into the pre assessment. And that is just to get a gauge as to where these students are. And we'll be able to review whether they're able to find that relationship between time and distance and go from there. So next, what I have is my formative assessment. This is also an example from the activity that I pulled. Links here, Mathematics Assessment Resource Service is where I have a lesson plan pulled. This is mainly the progress, where we went from our pre-assessment, where we started from, and this is where our halfway point is. So on here, the matching card activity, what the students will do is cut out these individual cards and see which one matches to the lines on the graph. Moving to the formative assessment, this is our midway point from our pre-assessment as a starting point. From here, we move on to lessons. And for the example that I used, I have a matching card activity. In this matching card activity, I use the lesson from the Mathematics Assessment Resource Service. Great place to look at lessons and how to do step by step. It also includes teacher resources. So you can follow along with the students and go from there. But in this example, what I've done is broken down this lesson plan from the introduction, which will be individualized for students just to check their understanding of where we went after the lecture. So once they work individually, they get paired into small groups within the classroom. With these small groups, they'll be able to justify and explain. This is very important in math because I'm able to see how they're able to justify what they have, explain it to the other students, and come to a conclusion from there. From there, we go into the whole class. We see what have we learned in each individual group. See if we came with the same responses or if anybody was creative and found connections in a different way. I've also included the PHET simulation. It relates to the lesson because it has graphs, an activity where you can plot points. So this is a great enhancement to our lesson, even for those that missed the class. This is a great way to have it all together in one lesson. Now, going into the post-assessment, what I have here is a sample test with a preview here of one of the pages. But what I have here is just a sample. It's an evaluation of the unit. It has lots of different sections. There is one page in particular, page or two, that goes over ratio proportion. So what it has here is just tying into what was previously done, and then this will just be a baseline for a test. Multiple choice would also be added, just depending on the unit itself, what was done in those last few weeks that will also be included in this test, but that is also included here for the Mathematics Assessment Resource Service. Next, I'd like to go into assistive technology. Here, we'll be able to look at speech-to-text software or apps. What I have done is included links for each website or app. So first is the Gboard. This is a pre-downloaded for some phones app, or you can go into the Google iPhone store and download. But what it does here is it adds a small icon, a microphone icon onto the keyboard. So once you have that keyboard on your phone, because this is an app, you click on that microphone and it takes anything that you're saying and type it down onto that screen. It's free. And what it does is that once you have it downloaded, if it's not already, is add a microphone to the side of your keyboard. And once you click onto that microphone, it will take your speech and transcribes it into the message that you have open or document, whatever you have open, and it will read letter by letter. It's very easy, simple commands, period, comma, question mark, exclamation point, even, and it's immediate. So you'll be able to see how that works on the phone. The next thing I have is dictation. It's a website for free. It is a microphone that you'll see on the screen. So it's a website, so you'll be able to reach it on your phone if you have a phone extension. So the next thing I'd like to go into is dictation. Dictation is a website. So if you use your phone, just have the website open on the Safari or Google browser. From here, what it does is that it records everything that you say, start and stop, lots of features that you're able to do, like copy or save. And from there, you can even speak at a distance from the microphone, and it'll still take what you're saying into the page. The next, the next website that I like to look into is Speech Texter. It works in the same way as Dictation IO. The only difference I found here is that the commands, they can be a bit more detailed. So a lot more features here on those commands, but they're right next to the page, so you're not having to memorize any of those special punctuations. And so all of these are very easy to use websites or apps in this case, and it is something that I will have implemented in the classroom in case any of the students are having trouble writing due to injury, or if they have some kind of disability in their hand, they're not able to write correctly or able to write pain free, anything of the like. This will have that accessibility for these students. And it is just speaking, getting their words down, and it makes things a lot easier for those students, just so we can make sure that their work is done as well. The next area that I'd like to speak about is the text to speech software or apps. Here I've included also the links that are also clickable. First, I'd like to go over Dyslexicon. This is a Chrome extension. So if you have Chrome, you'll be able to have it. Unfortunately, does not have a Safari extension. But on this extension, what it does is that it will take what you have on the screen and read it with an AI voice. So you'll be able to hear what is on the screen from anything on the websites. It'll also have it to where you can change the text so it's easier to read, uh, color of the font, color on the text, and it'll make it to where it's easy to follow along with the AI generated voice reading that information to you. So the next one I'd like to go into is My Diz Edu. This is a downloadable app. So it's not on the web, on your phone, very easy to use. I've actually had it downloaded. And once you see the okay, so the next okay, so from the Dyslexicon, we are going to My Days Edu. This is a downloadable app. It's says for iPad, iPhone, and Android, it's very easy to download. It's free. It has. So, what I can go into now, so from this lexicon, we can go into My Days EDU. This is a downloadable app for iPhone, iPad, and even Android.
It's 9 o'clock.
So, this is My Days EDU. This is an app that you can have downloaded onto your phone or iPad or tablet. And this is a great app to have. What it does, it takes photos of your screen, which is on your phone. It can take photos of print items like books and even handwritten notes. And once it has that information, that picture, it takes that picture and it transcribes it onto a different screen. And from there, you have an option to change fonts, colors, backgrounds, and this is where the AI comes in and reads everything for you. So you're able to follow along and listen to the media that you took a picture of. So this is great for on the go. Not everywhere you can tote around a computer. So I definitely recommend this for uh, speech to text. Or excuse me, I definitely recommend this for text to speech. And the next app that I'd like to go into is listening. This is an app and it's available for extension Chrome or login from the web. This is a program that uses AI for any documents, websites, and physical pages out loud. And it works similarly to My Days, except it's also including websites. So from here, you're able to listen to different AI voices that you can customize so it's easier for you to hear. So this is a great website app to use as well. From here, I'd like to go into the assistive technology for resources for teachers. And first, the University of Michigan has a web page where they're able to give you a list of a wide variety of websites that are helpful, just like the speech to text and text to speech. Also, for anybody who is visually impaired, this is also an example from their website that they're able to offer and show you because they are focusing on educational experience for everyone. So it's great to go into that website and see what other resources are available. Next, I have the ASHA Wire. This is a journal for the American Speech Language Hearing Association. And what I really like about this resource is that it does have information, mostly news and narratives that focus on education, research, and policies. In education, they use guides, highlight importance on school issues. Within the research section, they have studies, clinicals, state and private, that they're able to expand on these issues that we're seeing that are not available for a lot of people who have a struggle and any type of disability. The second, the second website I'd like to recommend. So apart from University of Michigan, I have ASHA Wire. This is the American Speech Language Hearing Association. And what it does is that it shares the news and narratives within education, research, and policies that affect speech, learn language, and hearing. So here they have a more in-depth coverage. Like in education, they have guides that highlight importance into school issues. In research, they have information about the clinical, state, or even private studies that are done. And then lastly, they have policies that affect either laws or even those in the profession of audiology and such. This is a great place to have that new information always being updated, and it even has programs that you can, or news and information as to how you can have it relate to you depending on what you need to find in that website as well. Great, great resource. The next thing I have is Classroom Management for Secondary Teachers. This is a book. It's available at the library, Borum Library. And what I found very uh, great about this book is that it does have classroom management, but it also focuses in a certain chapter about special needs. This is a great book. It as it shows a guide, it shows strategies, follow steps to success, and adjust for special needs. And with that, it shows even activities, case studies, and scenarios for educators so that you can get a bit more familiar with the subject of special needs. And this includes anybody who is hard of hearing, deaf, hard of hearing, uh, students with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, if you haven't heard that one, and then emotional behavioral problems. These are also very important disabilities that get looked over for a lot of people. So I really recommend having this book. It's very great for showing those special groups that you may have in the classroom. So it's a good read on there. So from here, I'd like to move on to management. Speaking of classroom management, this is the last page that I have on here. For the learning environments, also here that standard for the individual and collaborative learning. So, what I have under class rules, this is going to be a broad area, and this is mostly overall school reminders. Anybody in their class may have these rules. This is something I was able to find from the Promising Practices in Classroom Management training. Great resource here. It goes a bit more into detail on these four subjects. I'd like to focus on this rules area, which praise and engagement are also very good for pushing those rules. It brings out the best of those students. I also included a little chart here just for an example, following directions, being respectful, ready to learn. This is something you'd expect. Next is procedures. And in procedures, the procedures, and I recommend this right here, setting up and facilitating student-centered classrooms. This is also available at the Borum Library. These are a great way to look at how to set up the classroom with procedures. In my classroom specifically, I'll be able to implement most of these checklists that it has. One in particular, it has a procedures checklist that you can divide up into what you may need. For an example, I use these daily routines. We just got to make sure that these are going to happen. I included some examples from what I pulled from this resource. This is daily routine, interactions, and materials. The last thing I'd like to look at on the consequences is another book that I have from the library. And this is Discipline in the Secondary Classroom, a positive approach to behavior management. I was able to uh, look at how rules and procedures are established and understood, um, and to follow once those rules and procedures are broken, the consequences that students would face. So, what I like is that in this book, it details the degrees of of actions and how you can have appropriate consequences for each individual action. And so, what I was able to see is how to get a plan. So, what they've done in this book, they have an actual management and discipline planning section of consequences that are also listed in the book here. Each each consequence is given in detail, and there's also a section where there are different actions or this is an example of the consequences. And in the book, it also includes, so these are an example of consequences. And in the book, it even shows the behaviors of what would result in a consequence. So there is physically dangerous acts, insubordination, threats, a bit on the extreme side, but hopefully you won't have to see that side of anybody. But just in case for contingencies, it does have that information in the book and how to follow up with those consequences there. Also offering a form, a behavior incident report form, checking as to the student, what was the action, was it severe, was it moderate, describing the action and actions taken, which would be these consequences fitting the misbehavior and planning to interact with the student. So, this is a great resource just for looking at discipline and consequences and how to go about it in the classroom. Hopefully, we don't have to, but everyone is human. And going to technology tools. So, the next resource that I have, so the second resources that I've included in this technology tool is another book, also from the Borum Library, sponsoring me on this one. Okay, so another resource that I have for technology tools is evidence based strategies for effective classroom management. And what I really liked about this book in particular is that not only does it look at classroom management, but it has a psychology behind it to look at the research and have those effective evidence based strategies, like it says in the book. And what I was able to see that in this book, it has main points of foundations, like those theories of why students do certain things and what to do in order to support certain behaviors. So we have preventative actions, strategies to tackle these behavior issues, and even how to implement and even make those strategies a bit more effective. And what I liked is that besides going into those details, there is a section where it has a self reflection form that is useful for within your own classroom. And here it just goes into something a student will fill out so that they can be reflective on their own behavior as a form of a strategy, for an example, as a form of strategy to help with behavior with those students. Okay, so I'd just like to say thank you so much. Going